Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's XMS Cloud webinar. This session is being recorded, and if you have any questions during the webinar, please enter them into the questions panel, and we'll get to those at the end of the webinar. I'd like to introduce today's presenter, Mark Heeman, who is Training Manager at Cambium Networks. Mark, you can take it from here.
Okay, thanks, Olivia. So I'm starting to share my screen. You should be able to hear me. Is everything look and sound okay?
Yep.
Wonderful. Well, folks, thanks for joining us today. In today's webinar, I would like to cover XMS Cloud. I believe the title of the webinar is Bring Affordability and Efficiency into Your Organization using XMS Cloud. And that's what I want to show you today. In today's webinar, I want to cover XMS Cloud. I want to cover a couple of different components of XMS Cloud, not only the management system itself, but I want to cover EasyPass, which is a suite of 8 different access portals. And I also want to cover Command Center, which is our multi-service, our managed service provider dashboard. It's not only for managed service providers, but there are several use cases of which I'll cover in today's webinar. So again, like Olivia mentioned previously, please ask your questions, put them in the chat box or in the questions box there. And after I'm finished, I will come back and I will answer all your questions for you. I know that some folks like to answer questions as they go along. However, I've got one of those brains that when I focus in on something, I focus in and then I'll look up, 10 minutes later and there'll be a couple of questions and I'll feel guilty for not asking them in real time or answering them in real time. So to make it easy for me, please send your questions and I promise I'll get all your questions answered before the end of the webinar. Okay, so with that, let's get started with XMS Cloud. I'm going to go through a few brief slides, and then I'm going to open up my web browser and log into XMS Cloud and give you a hands-on demonstration. So XMS Cloud is a cloud-based management system. And of course, being in the cloud, you get all of the wonderful things that comes with having your application hosted in the cloud. You get the number one, it's hosted in the Amazon cloud. So we have redundancy. Amazon has data centers all over the world. I remember a couple years ago, they lost a data center out on the East Coast, and it didn't affect the rest of the world. It didn't have any effect on the rest of their cloud because they've got redundancy, they've got resiliency. As our demands grow, as we add more and more XMS Cloud accounts, we don't have to worry about resources. We just send an email or pick up the phone and Amazon gives us more resources. So we don't worry about any of that. For you as the customer, it's beautiful because all you have to do is open up a web browser and go to login.xeris.com, use your credentials, and you're logged in. So you can do that anywhere in the world as long as you have an internet connection. Also, you don't have to worry about maintaining your data center. You don't have to add more resources for a management system. You don't have to worry about backups. None of that. Okay, that's all taken care of because you're in the cloud. All right, so with XMS Cloud, I've already kind of mentioned EasyPass. This is our suite of 8 different access portals. It's built into XMS Cloud. It's not a bolt-on side product. Okay, so it's very clean. It looks very clean. Works very well. Command Center is our MSP product. Again, it's a component of XMS Cloud. It's not a bolt-on product that we bought from somebody else and we're kind of sticking it in there and making it work. All of our access points, the Xeris access points, have a built-in 4-core processor and a controller. And what that allows us to do is a lot of really cool things, but one of those that I'm going to talk about right in here is locationing services. So, everything that happens in Wi-Fi, your access points, your clients, all that is just information that we track, and we track it for a year. So, we can triangulate on access points or devices, and we can show you on a map, where devices are at. Zero-touch provisioning is exactly that. It's a term that's widely used in today's industry, where essentially, you go into the management system, you create what we call as a network profile. That's your golden template if you come from the VM world. So you configure this profile with SSIDs and VLANs and application control policies, which I'll talk about in just a moment. Maybe your Active Directory servers, all this other stuff. You configure this profile, and then as you add access points to it, those access points take on the configuration of the profile. And this is huge because you want all of your access points across your network to have a consistent image. If you're a network administrator and you're trying to troubleshoot your Wi-Fi network, there's nothing more frustrating than to have different images on different access points, and here you go trying to troubleshoot what's going on. That just doesn't work. And then if you're anything like me and you have to configure a bunch of things individually, well, I can promise you I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to fat finger something. I'm going to miss clicking a button or something. That's just who I am. So profiles are a wonderful thing. Zero-touch provisioning just makes it really, really easy for the administrator. Policy enforcement. This is our application control engine. So earlier I mentioned we have a 4-core processor and a controller in every access point. And that's huge because what that allows us to do now is give the administrator the ability to manage over 2,400 different applications. And by manage, you can block applications. You can put a QoS on applications. So if you have a voice over Wi-Fi phone system, you know what? All that traffic gets a higher QoS. So it doesn't matter what's going on in the rest of your network. Every time Apple comes out with a new iOS update, what do people do? They go to work and they update their devices. So what does that do is that crushes your network. Well, you don't have to worry about that. You can give that kind of traffic a lower priority. So yeah, you let the people do their updates, but they're going to go slower than everybody else. Your mission critical stuff traffic is going to go first. Your Wi-Fi, your voice over Wi-Fi traffic, you've given it a higher QoS, so all that traffic goes to the front of the line, no matter what else is going on. Analytics. Analytics is becoming very, very large in the industry, especially for retail. Retail people want to be able to track you as you walk into their store and then you walk around, okay? And it's kind of freaky when you go to a point of sale counter and your phone is buzzing you and you've got a coupon for blue jeans. You're going, whoa, wait a minute. Well, they know that you were standing in the blue jeans section for 20 minutes and now they're passing on a coupon to you. Analytics is very, very big. People monetize that stuff. One time we did a design for a stadium, for a college stadium, and did our proposal, and they came and said, hey guys, we forgot to tell you, we don't have a budget for this, so you're going to have to help us monetize the Wi-Fi network. Well, that's where analytics comes in. That's becoming very, very large. Application control. This is where I just mentioned this a moment ago, and we brought this out about 6 years ago, and it's a huge game changer in the Wi-Fi industry. Reason being is that Wi-Fi is a very limited medium, so you've only got so much bandwidth. Okay, so as people come onto your network, as devices attached to your network, well, they get a little slice of that very finite piece of bandwidth. And the more that these people use the network, well, the more bandwidth they're going to consume, and so that's less and less of your overall pipe, right? So by physics, yeah, we can, like everybody, like every other vendor, we can get 256 devices. We can get, I've seen 400 devices connected to a single access point at some of these large trade shows that I work at. But the reality is with that many people, if everybody's just kind of checking email and they're kind of browsing the internet a little bit, man, okay, it works, right? But as soon as they start streaming video, or going to Salesforce, or using some of these other SaaS type applications, and they're using more bandwidth, well, then your network is crushed. So it's not necessarily the number of people that are on your network, but just as important is what they're doing. So with application control, again, we give you the ability to manage that traffic so that you can go to management and say, hey, yeah, you can go ahead and buy that voice over Wi-Fi phone system you've been talking about. I now have a way to guarantee the performance for those phones. Okay, I'm going to give them a higher QoS and maybe give Facebook and some other traffic a lower QoS so that the phone system's always going to work. All right, and again, managing is not just blocking, it's putting a QoS or putting a rate limit on applications. Right, and by the way, this is not our application engine. We have partnered with Procera. You might recognize them as Palo Alto. They do firewalls, and essentially we're using their deep packet inspection engine, layers 5, 6, and 7 of the TCP/IP protocol stack. So, and that gets updated every couple of months. There's new applications. When we first started with this, I think we were at like just a little over 1,000 applications, and now we're over 2,400 different applications. Okay, another thing I want to talk to you today about is EasyPass, and EasyPass is a suite of access, 8 different access portals. And years ago, before we developed EasyPass, we did a poll. We sent a poll out to all our customers, and we asked them, you know, what's your #1 headache with your wireless network? And we were expecting it to be, you know, managing bandwidth or doing updates or you know, client issues or whatever. The #1 problem was onboarding devices onto their network, because it seems like the IT department had to get involved with onboarding the guest clients and the corporate clients, and they had staff dedicated just to that. So we developed a product called EasyPass. And again, this is 8 different types of access portals, and I'll go over them in just a little bit. But the point being here is that you know, now we make it very, very easy to get clients onto your Wi-Fi network securely, which is huge, right? And easily, okay? And that's also huge, because now you know, these portals are so easy to create and implement that really you don't have to have an IT person do this stuff. It's really very, very simple. Okay, and this, what this slide shows is that, you know, you've got so many different types of Wi-Fi devices connecting to your network. You've got guests coming in. You don't know who they are. You don't know what kind of device they have, but they need to get on your network, and they need to do it securely and easily. Then you've got your corporate users coming in, bringing in their own phones, their own tablets, their own laptops. So you really don't know what they have, but they also need to connect to the network. And then you have corporate issued equipment, where yes, the IT department knows what device it is and who it belongs to. Okay, and in today's world, you've got all these IoT devices, industrial, medical, manufacturing, you name it, all these IoT devices that are constantly getting on, that you need to get on your network, and you need to be able to manage that securely. So that's where EasyPass comes in. Again, EasyPass works with all clients. Okay, there's no dissolvable agents that you need to worry about. No agents put on the devices. No additional licenses. Okay, so you're not buying client licenses, you're not buying AP licenses. There may be a very small one-time charge for EasyPass, but that's pretty negligible when you think about other folks who are charging you for licenses to use access portals. Okay, I'm going to show you all these different portals here in just a little bit. Yeah. And just more, you know, just more of what I've already kind of talked about there. And then the last thing I want to show you today is going to be Command Center, and Command Center is our MSP platform. This is a product that allows you, if you're an MSP or a big customer, because it's not just for MSPs, but essentially you create these what we call domains. They're accounts. They could be campuses. They could be different clients. But you create this domain and you configure it using profiles where you configure SSIDs and VLANs and easy pass portals and run custom reports and all this stuff. But you create a domain for each different client that you're selling Wi-Fi as a service to. Or like we have an international school system and they have a domain for each different location. Some of our larger customers or partners may use this for a proof to manage proof of concepts. Okay, so you're as a partner, you're going out to do a proof of concept for a customer. Well, your engineers create a new domain in Command Center. They configure it with the profile and the SSIDs and all that stuff, and then the access point is taken out to the customers or potential customer, and it's mounted and connected to the network, and it's up and running. But you're managing that whole process back home. Your engineers are managing that whole process. So that way you can pretty much guarantee a favorable outcome on this proof of concept. Okay. And this is right there is what the dashboard looks like. And so again, I'm going to take you through these things live. PowerPoints get kind of tiring after a little bit. So let's go ahead and actually before I get started, I'm glad I remembered this. I have a couple of poll questions for you, only two. The first one I want to ask, I've got a question for you, and I'm going to go ahead and post this up. And Olivia told me a little bit earlier that there was an issue with GoToWebinar here, where if you are in full screen mode, you may not see my poll. Okay, but I've just opened up the poll, and essentially I'm asking you which management platform are you most interested in using with your next Wi-Fi network, and that'll be a cloud managed or an on-premise managed management system. So it looks like we've got some votes coming in, and again, if you cannot see the poll question to answer it, if you're in full screen mode, that might be stopping you from being able to see the poll questions. All right, and looks like we've got just a couple more responses. I'll give you folks just another moment or two, and then we'll continue on. Okay, tell you what, let's we've got a good amount of folks that have replied, and so I'm gonna close the poll here. Okay, it looks like the majority of folks are most interested in cloud-based management, and in today's world, that makes a whole lot of sense. Again, for all the reasons that I mentioned at the very beginning. There will always be some folks that have to have an on-premise management system, whether it's for their Wi-Fi network or whatever else. They want that security of having the data stored or kept within their boundaries, and I completely understand that. I come from a financial world, and that's the way it was there as well. So completely understand, but I also understand the benefits of having a cloud-based system. Excuse me, I need to step up for just 1 second here. Okay, sorry about that. One of the nuances of working at home is that when your dog wants in your office and you shut the door, they're going to scratch and scratch and scratch until you let them in. So I thought I would save us all a little bit of pain by letting her in now. Okay, so let's get started now. I want to take you through a demo of XMS Cloud. XMS Cloud started out, about 6 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. And, when it first came out, it was an additional management system to our already existing management system, XMS Enterprise. And XMS Enterprise was a very, very, very powerful management system. It was on-premise, ran in either an appliance or in a VM environment. Very powerful. I really loved it. XMS Cloud came out, and it was, it had just come out, so it wasn't anywhere near as powerful. But what's happened over time is every 6 weeks we're adding more features and more features to XMS Cloud, to where now XMS Cloud is a very powerful management system. But more than that, and I don't like to talk about the power. I'll let you see the power. But what I like to talk about is how easy, or how this was designed to be very, very easy for the administrator to understand and use. Let's face it, my experience in the IT world is that IT staff tends to get smaller and smaller and smaller. And when you lose somebody, you don't necessarily get a rec to fill that position. So staff is getting smaller, but demands are getting larger and larger and larger. Okay, so it makes a whole lot of sense to ease some of the burden on the IT staff. So number one, put it in the cloud. But number two, when you use XMS Cloud, one of the things I really want to impress upon you is how it was designed to flow. Okay, and how easy it is to, number one, configure your network. Number two, manage your network, and then number three, do some other cool stuff like locationing and reporting and well, troubleshooting, right? So let me take you through some of the stuff here. Essentially, what I want to do is kind of take you through a day in the life of a network administrator using XMS Cloud. Okay, so with that kind of theme in mind, one of the first things that happens is your company agrees to buy Cambium Zero's products and manage it using XMS Cloud. So you get this email from our fulfillment group saying, hey, congratulations, thank you for purchasing Cambium Zero's equipment. Here's your login to XMS Cloud. You open up your web browser, go to login.xeros.com, and you log in. Okay, you're presented with your own dashboard. Well, one of the first things you want to do is get your network ready. Okay, so you're going to create a profile. Like I mentioned, a profile is a golden template. Okay, so the first thing you do is you give your profile a name, and then now, if this is so easy, if you will just kind of follow the tiles from left to right, you're going to have configured your network and done a pretty good job with it as well. XMS Cloud was designed to be very, very easy to use. There's a lot of features, a lot of power, but a lot of that and more advanced stuff is going to be hidden so that you have a cleaner look. So for instance, on the general page, you need to set your country code, right? That's a given. You don't have an option. You have to set your country code. Essentially, what that does is that opens up different rules, because every country seems like has a different set of rules that we have to play by when we're doing Wi-Fi in their country. So by setting up the United States, it tells us what channels we're allowed to use, what features, DFS, all this kind of stuff. Okay, so we set the country code, and then you need to set your time zone as well. It's very important that your access points are that the time is configured properly, because if it's not, then they're not going to work properly with XMS Cloud. Okay. Advanced features. Look for these links that say show advanced. When you click those, the screen opens up and you get more options. Okay, so So here, are you using a network time protocol? I hope so. So if go ahead and say yes and put in a time server. Active Directory, if you're using Active Directory, you may want to go ahead and configure some of these Active Directory admin settings so XMS Cloud has access to, to the devices or to the Active Directory system. Syslog, do you have a corporate syslog server? If you do, it'd be nice to be able to ship off all the syslog messages from all the access points off to your corporate syslog server. That way you as an administrator go to your syslog server, which you're paying good money for, and you can view all the syslog messages from both the wired side and the wireless side of the network. Okay. That's pretty easy. SSIDs. Well, one of the first things you want to do when configuring your network is to create SSIDs. Okay, and I want to show you how easy this is. So you create an SSID, you give it a name. Is this going to be running in both bands, 2.4 and 5 gigahertz? For guests, probably. All right, and for encryption authentication, your security. Normally you have a pre-shared key, maybe not, but in this case, I'm going to leave it as open because what I'm going to do here in just a little bit is I'm going to create an easy pass portal, okay, for our guests and attach it to this SSID. All right, so is this SSID enabled? Yes. Is it broadcasted? Yes. Do I want to put it on a schedule? Maybe this guest SSID is only valid Monday through Friday from 8. Oh, you know what? I'll be generous and I'll say from 7 to 6. All right, so we've got a schedule there. And you know what? I've got my network's a little bit more advanced, so I've got VLANs. All right, so I'm going to set this guest network up on VLAN 100. Now let's use let's create a corporate SSID. Okay, this guy is only going to be broadcasted on 5 gigahertz. The VLAN for this one is 200. Okay, and for my authentication, I want to set up, I want to configure this SSID to use my Radius server. Okay, so I'll just put in my Radius server IP address, and then I'll put in the same Radius shared secret that I set up when I configured my Radius server. Okay, so as simple as that, I've got 2 SSIDs configured, one without authentication or security. The other one is using EAP or my Radius security. So I'm kind of one of those kind of guys that before I switch pages, I like to save my configuration. Been burned too many times. That's just kind of an automatic for me now. On the network page, I can create, or not create, but I configure my Ethernet ports. Okay, IP addresses. You know, how does your company handle network device IP addresses? You know, are you going to use DHCP? Are you going to assign static IP addresses? You know, my personal feeling, what I like to do is I'll use DHCP with reservations. That way, no matter where the access point goes, okay, no matter how long it's been offline, it's always going to have the same IP address. So when I look at an IP address, I know exactly what access point that's attached to, but I don't have to maintain this list of static IP addresses in an Excel spreadsheet. For me, that's just a nightmare. The access point can be used as a DHCP server. Okay, and also with the we have LACP support. So if the access point has 2 gigabit Ethernet ports, you can split those. You can split traffic. You know, what is it? PCI, the payment credit card industry. You know, they've got very, very strict rules on where data can go and where it can't go, and all this other stuff. So with LACP, essentially what we can do is we can send all that credit card data down one Ethernet port, which goes to a switch, an edge switch, and then goes off to your core network. And then all the management data and other data, client data, goes out this other Ethernet port, goes to another switch out on the edge, and then goes to your core. So that way you're in PCI compliance, and you're separating the payment data from all the rest of the data. Okay. Policies. This is a big one. Okay. This is application control. Not only application control, but all of the ZERUS access points also have your traditional firewall, layers 2, 3, and 4, right? Same firewall that's been around since the late 70s when the internet first started getting popular. Okay, so we're going to manage traffic at layers 2, 3, and 4 using a traditional firewall. We've also got this deep packet inspection engine, which I've kind of already talked about, okay, where we allow you to manage traffic at layers 5, 6, and 7. So, so now, and then some of our competitors will tell you that they're doing application control, but really what they're doing is they're looking at port, at layer 3. There's layers 2 and 3, and sometimes 4. They're seeing, oh, well, look, there's port 80, so there's internet traffic. Okay, oh, there's 443, so there's SSL traffic. And that's what they'll tell you. That's their application control. Now, what we're doing is we're looking at the top 3 layers. Okay, so no longer are we saying, oh, look, that's Facebook traffic. Now we're going to tell you, look, that's Farmville within Facebook traffic. Okay, so now you can go manage. Okay, we got to let people get on Facebook at work. That's understandable, but we don't have to let them play Farmville. So we can go block Farmville, but we get that by looking at the top 3 layers of the TCP/IP protocol stack. Right, so let me show you, and what we do is we build policies, okay, and we can build policies based on SSIDs, okay. We can build policies based on the type of device you use. Is it your phone, your tablet, your notebook? We can build policies on that, okay. We also build, we can allow you to use what we call dynamic VLANs. Okay, dynamic VLAN is, if you're in a really large environment, dynamic VLANs are so cool, because essentially you can have one SSID, and depending on how people log into the network, they're going to get placed in different groups. The radius server is going to send back an attribute that places these people in the guest group or the corporate group or the engineering group, and based on those groups you get access to different parts of the network, right? Okay, so and also with our policies, you get different policies applied to you, depending on what group you're in. So like a corporate user may have access to everything. Okay, a guest user may have access only to the internet, but none of the internal resources. So we do that. Let me show you how easy it is to create some of these policies. I'm going to create a guest policy here, or a policy, and place it on our guest SSID, and now I can start adding rules to this policy. Okay, so my first thing, and I always like to pick on Netflix. They're such an easy target. I can create just as simple as that. I've blocked Netflix traffic. Okay, so I've got this policy on my guest SSID that blocks Netflix. Okay, now let's say that I want to create a rule, but this time instead of blocking traffic, I want to allow traffic, and this will be Facebook. All right. Let's go to Facebook here, and for my guests, I'm going to let them go to Facebook, but I'm not going to allow them to crush my network by doing all this stuff on Facebook. So I select the category, I click the show advanced link. Remember, there's lots of cool stuff under there, and I'm going to limit traffic per client at 1 megabit. Okay, so each client that goes out to Facebook that's attached to this guest SSID, they only get 1 megabit of bandwidth. Okay, maybe kind of harsh, but I'm trying to conserve the bandwidth for my corporate users and for my mission critical applications. All right. Now I've got two rules attached to my guest SSID. Let me create another SSID or a policy on my corporate SSID. All right. So let's add a rule to this now. And what I'm going to do with this guy is I'm going to select Microsoft Office 365. Okay, and of course I don't want to block that, but what I'm going to do is allow traffic. And I'm going to assign this a QoS of 0. That's the highest level of QoS I can give. Okay, so no matter what else is going on and anywhere in my Wi-Fi network, this Microsoft Office application traffic is going to go to the front of the line every time. Okay, that's pretty cool. So let me go ahead and save this configuration. And by the way, you noticed, well, I'll show you next time, but when I click Save Configuration, I get an option of pushing out that configuration now or scheduling it to be pushed out at a later time. You know, maybe I don't want to interrupt what's going on, you know, in the middle of the day, but I want to go ahead and make the changes and have them pushed out at night. Bonjour Director, you know, this is for Apple Bonjour, and Bonjour is a really, really cool protocol, right? It allows your Apple devices to find your Apple services, you know, your Apple printers, your Apple TVs, things like that. Really cool protocol, works terrific at home, doesn't work so good in the corporate environment because it doesn't bridge across VLANs by itself. So Bonjour Director allows us to create these bridges in our network where we can place Apple devices on one VLAN, Apple services on another VLAN, and using Bonjour Director, our devices can find those services on a different VLAN. Okay, the admin button. You know, please change your default admin password. Please. That's just a very, very basic security measure. I'm not going to beat that one up too much. I clicked over here, the Show Advanced link, optimization. We give you some tools to optimize client traffic, optimize RF traffic, and down here, to me, this was a game changer. It came out years ago. You know, I mentioned earlier how when XMS Cloud first came out, you know, it was kind of light. It didn't have all the features that are in the operating system. And by the way, you know, our operating system, if you look at it, you can tell pretty quickly it was developed for engineers by engineers. Very powerful, allows you to get into the little bitty granular you know, bits and pieces of the operating system. You can manage almost everything on your Wi-Fi network that you can possibly imagine. Okay, designed for engineers by engineers. In fact, I like to tell people, just because you can, or just because you can, doesn't mean you should. I mean, you can literally over configure the network to where it doesn't work. Okay, and you don't want to do that, obviously. But there are going to be some times where you're going to want a feature that's available in the operating system that's not available in XMS Cloud. And before Snippet came out, you said, oh, well, sorry, you know. But now with Snippet, what you can do is you have access into the CLI. Okay, so now I can do things, I can activate features or configure features that are in the operating system that are not in XMS Cloud. And I put them here in the profile. Okay, so that when the profile is pushed out to these other, to the access points, well, part of that configuration is done here in the snippet and through the CLI. So again, this gives you full access to the operating system. And this was a game changer because now XMS Cloud could do everything you wanted it to do as long as it was in the operating system. Locationing services. So again, we collect a lot of data. Data from beacons, data from probe requests, data on clients, data on access points, data on rogue access points. And a rogue access point is anything that's not a Xeris access point. We collect all this data, okay? And a lot of times it's very, very useful. But it's all just numbers, okay? To our brains, it doesn't really make much sense, okay? So what we've done here is we give you a couple options to utilize all this information. We have an XPS server. It's a positioning server that does all the number crunching for you if you're really getting into these locationing services, okay? By the way, just right out of the box, if you put maps and floor plans into XMS Cloud, and drop in the access points, we'll show you where the clients are, because we're going to do this number crunching. And the way that happens is all this number crunching is very, very processor intensive. Well, remember, all of our access points have 4 core processors. So all that locationing information that needs to be processed, we spread that load across all the APs in your network. So all the processors are taking part in all this number crunching. Okay, but sometimes at some point it's going to get too big and you don't want to burden your access points with this locationing. So you can have it shipped off to the XPS server. And this is runs in a VM, and all it does is this number crunching. And then you can, if you have the resources, you can write your own reports and run your own maps and stuff, and you can show the client locations and history and this kind of stuff. But what a lot of people like to do is use third parties for this locationing services. Third parties such as CloudSpot or Metro Wi-Fi, and these are companies that specialize in locationing services, and they monetize it. They help you monetize it. So, for instance, there's one of our partners that is using XMS Cloud, and they're using Metro Wi-Fi, and they have it. One of their clients is the Metro in Paris. Okay, so as you look at this station, this Metro station, you can see where all the clients are going all over the station. Okay, and they can see where, so now they can sell advertising space. They can go to an advertiser and say, you see this little billboard right here, or this little poster? 15,000 people a day walk next to that poster or walk past that poster. And so we'd like to sell you some advertising space. Oh, you don't want to spend that much money? Well, back over here in the corner, we've got traffic of about 2,000 people per day walking past this poster. And this one's going to cost you a lot less than this one. And by the way, you can see all the people walking around. Pretty cool stuff. So again, you can have data shipped off to an XPS server, or you can have it, if you use a third party, you put in the URL, and the access points will ship all that locationing information off to the third party. They crunch it up and they put it in these real pretty reports and graphs and maps, real-time maps and stuff like that. So that's all just all kind of built into the system there. Okay, so I've configured my network. I've got SSIDs, I've got policies, I've got VLANs, I've got different security. Again, I want to save the configuration, and I can push now or I can schedule it. Well, I'm going to push now because I haven't added any access points to this configuration yet. Okay, so let me go ahead and do that. I want to add an access point. Okay, now as an administrator, I've configured my network. I've added an access point. That access point, as we speak, is taking on the configuration that I just built up. Okay, so now I want to show you EasyPass. Remember, this is our suite of 8 different access portals. We have several guest access portals. We have a guest self-registration, and this is where a client hits the SSID, and they're presented with a couple of pages where they have to enter their email address and if a phone number, if they want their credentials texted to them. Okay, And then once they've successfully registered, then they get their credentials emailed and or texted to them. A guest ambassador portal is very similar, except you have your receptionist or security personnel create these accounts for your guests when they walk in. A one-click access portal is exactly that. The guest comes in, they click on the SSID, they see your terms of use, they click OK, and they're on the network. A voucher system is pretty cool. This is where the system will pre-generate a number of vouchers, codes, okay? And then when you export all these codes and in a CSV file, then you import them into a different system, maybe like a point of sale system, or maybe if you're a convention center and you want to give internet access out to your guests, well, in their welcome packet, they get this code, okay? But the code is configured so that they can have access for your determined amount of time. A coffee shop might do 1 hour. A convention might do 3 days, okay? Google login, Microsoft Azure portals, these are huge, okay, and getting more popular every day because what these are pass-through portals into Microsoft and Google. Okay, so if your company uses Microsoft Office 365, you use this Azure portal. So when your corporate user hits the SSID, they are automatically redirected to the Azure authentication engines, okay? And your IT administrators, well, they've already set up the Active Directory and tree structures and ecosystem. They've configured all the stuff already. So now you're just kind of leveraging all the work that's already been done. The user puts in their Active Directory credentials, and then at that time, they're given access to the local Wi-Fi network, all the local resources, your databases and all that kind of stuff. But then at that time, they're also given access to the Microsoft ecosystem, all their applications and folders and all that stuff. Same thing with Google, okay? It's just a pass-through portal, hit the SSID, you're prompted for your Google credentials. Once you successfully log in, you get access to the network and the ecosystem and local resources and all that. Onboarding, this is where you get a list of people that are getting ready to come into your network if you're a school district, okay? And then you import that into the system. The system gives a unique password for everybody, and then you export that information and pass it out to, give it back to the registrar, and they will pass out that information to students as they come in for the semester. Okay, these portals are very, very simple to create. Let me see if I can do a very quick self-reg portal here. Okay, again, you configure things such as session expiration periods, landing pages, things like that, but you can customize the look and feel of the page. I'll do Java Joe as a company name for my logo. Well, you know what? I should have used ABC. I'll just use ABC here. Okay, I can select the logo. You can see it came up here. I can select a background image and do full screen on it. Okay, some of the different screens. This is the register screen. Okay, if they've already logged in, they can click the login button. The login screen looks like this. They use their username and password. The register page, this is the page that they first see when they hit the SSID. They put in their name, their email address, and if they want to receive their credentials via text message as well. Here's an email that's sent to them, all right, saying, hey, you know, you're on the network. Here are your credentials, and your access will expire in so many days. And that was configured by you. And then, hey, congratulations, you're on. Go for it. You know, just click this button, and you're on the web. Okay, so again, very, very quick, very easy. And now all I have to do is assign this to my guest SSID, and just like that, you know, guests can now easily and securely get onto the network. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to show you was Command Center. Okay, and Command Center again is our MSP product. It allows you to manage literally thousands of networks from this single pane of glass. Okay, so the demo I just ran, I have a domain in there called Alamo Bound. Okay, and that was where I just created this new profile and easy pass portals and things like that. So as you can see here, my dashboard shows me all the domains that I'm currently managing. Okay, I've got a problem with this domain. It's red. Okay, it tells me that all the access points in this domain are down. If I had a domain where I had, 15 access points and one of them was down, that would show up as orange. Okay, so not all of the access points are down, but at least one is. Okay, so this Command Center is very easy to use. Let me go back to profile here real quick, and I'm going to create a new profile. I'm going to call this demo profile, and in this demo profile, I'm going to create very quickly 2 SSIDs. The first one will be called free Wi-Fi, okay, and my second one is going to be corp Wi-Fi, and I'm going to save this configuration. Okay, so I've got this, and this is kind of like I'm going to use this as my template. All right, so I'm going to go back to Command Center now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that my salespeople came in. They've got a new client. Okay, so this new client is called ABC Corp. Okay, so there's my new client. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this profile, okay, and I'm going to deploy this profile to this new client. Okay, so let me go back to Command Center, back to my ABC Corp new domain, and now I can assign access points to this new domain. Okay, so now I just got to have somebody go and physically install that access point out on site, and my engineers can manage this domain. Okay, so I'm going to the domain now. I'm going to go to this profile, and probably one of the first things I want to do is change the name of the profile, but I will also change the name of the SSID. Okay, and if I wanted to, I could add easy pass portals to this profile, essentially do everything that I could do in XMS Cloud. Okay, folks, that is pretty much what I wanted to show you today. XMS Cloud, easy pass, and Command Center. Before I start asking the questions, I have one more poll question for you. Okay, and the question here is, what part about XMS Cloud are you most interested in, or what part of it tweaked your interest the most? Was it the ease of use of XMS Cloud? Was it Easy Pass? Was it Command Center? Okay, votes are coming in. Oh, it's kind of neat. You can see the numbers going up and down, and as the votes are coming in, I can see that it's pretty well split between ease of use and Command Center, with Easy Pass just kind of hanging in there. So that's quite interesting. Thank you. And this is, guys, I'm not going to take your information and try to spam you now with a bunch of marketing stuff or sales stuff, trying to get you to buy based on your poll questions. This is really more for my knowledge. It helps me. One of my primary duties with Cambium is training. And if you ever do any of the enterprise training, guess what? You're going to hear my voice. Okay, I think I've just created 27 new enterprise training videos. So this kind of helps me to know where I need to focus most of my attention on. And as now more votes come in, it looks like Command Center is starting to pull away. Very interesting to me. So thank you for that input. Now, we're getting right up against the top of the hour. Let me see if I can go through the questions. And first question, is Command Center supported in CN Maestro? No, it's not. Okay, Command Center is part of XMS Cloud. It is not available with CN Maestro. Now, CN Maestro does have an MSP console, or it does have some MSP capabilities, but Command Center, I think, takes that even to the next level. Will I post these slides? Yes, I can do that. I'll need to clean up the slide deck just a tad bit, but I can certainly make sure that we get it to you. If not here during the webinar, I can get it sent out to you folks post webinar. How many domains are supported by Command Center? So that's a great question. It's literally in the thousands. I've seen thousands. Okay, the engineers will tell you that it's near 10,000 with hundreds of thousands of devices supported. But I have seen a client with over 1,000 domains. So and yes, it does get to be cumbersome. But one of the things I don't think I showed you in Command Center was that you can have you create users. Okay, you create your you create an account for each of your administrators, and then you assign those administrators to different accounts so that only maybe your manager has access to all of the domains, and this administrator only has access to this many, then this one has those, and so on and so on and so on. So you can segment who has access to what domains, again, giving more security to the overall package. That'd probably make your customer feel pretty good too. Okay, guys, no more questions. We are right at the top of the hour. I want to thank you for your time today. Feel free to reach out at any time. Ask more questions. If you're interested in XMS Cloud or Command Center or EasyPass, more than glad to help you by answering questions or taking you through another demo or just whatever I can do to help you out. All right, so that's all I have for you today. Again, thanks for your time and have a great day.